Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Mental Worth Podcast. We are happy that you are tuned in and we hope that you enjoyed our last episode on toxic relationships. We're talking about toxic caregivers. You're here with me, Lillian Sinil.
And Derek Were.
Yes, karibu sana Derek. And before we continue, we also have a guest in the building. She is very familiar. I don't even know if she needs to introduce herself. Like she's like part of the podcast now, the deep state of the podcast. But I'm just going to let her introduce herself and tell us how she's been and stuff like that.
Hi guys, my name is Vicky Mugambi as well. I'm a dormant podcaster and a friend to my hosts of the day. Now at this point, nahitaji shares.
Unahitaji shares. Shares you shall have. Shares you shall have.
Earth is not our home.
As of now,
our treasures we are storing in heaven.
Absolutely.
As of now, your treasure heaven unaikula sahi.
Well, see, okay.
Anyway, kabla muwane up. Yes.
At least I know April has a birthday for me.
Yes, we get to celebrate something this month. Now, we want to talk about toxic caregivers. Derek,
yes.
What does that even mean?
Well, a toxic caregiver is, I think from the previous episode where we were highlighting about toxic, they are simply not raising a generation of kids in their right senses. These are parents who raise children who have fear in them, they have self-doubt, they grow up with a lot of guilt, and they deprive them the ability to be themselves. So basically that is what toxic caregiving is. So I believe we're going to dig deeper into some of the forms of toxic parenting that we experience in our day-to-day life. And I think it is also important for our listeners to know that it is what we learn in our childhood experiences or what we are exposed to in our childhood experiences that affect the decisions we make in terms of choosing our friends, choosing our partners for life, and how we relate with others in all spheres, socially, at workspaces and every other place. So it is a very crucial and important conversation we need to have, and I'm looking forward to hear from our guest, Victory Mugambi, about this conversation.
Before we want to move to Vicky, you've mentioned a lot of things about toxic caregivers, and my question is, do they know they're toxic?
The answer is yes and no. There are so many parents who are completely don't know whether they're toxic, because from my research and understanding is some of them borrowed the behavior they're having or the way they're treating us from their parents. So it is a whole generation culture, and to them it is part of the system. It's like we are born to take tea in the morning. If you tell somebody it's wrong to take tea in the morning, like, what do you mean it's wrong to take tea in the morning, for example? So there are those who, a small percentage of those who know. I've interacted with some friends of mine. They have parents who are even counselors themselves, but they're still toxic, and the parents don't even care. So there are also those who know, but it is a process to know, and it is a process to also start and unlearning. To do better, to unlearn. You don't, as you normally say, this is the issue. It's not an on and off button where you decide, yesterday I was doing this, today I'm going to do this. It's a process that takes a longer time sometimes than we think. The same as healing. You don't tell somebody you're going to heal in the next 3 days or 4 days. Some healings can even take forever.
But even at this point, I think it's important to mention that I think all of us have had a situation with our caregivers or parents that affected us in a negative way. But it's also important to understand that most of these parents did the best they could with what they knew at the time. So even as we talk about this topic, it's for us to raise awareness to the people listening to this, so that everyone can you can understand. If you're coming, for example, from a toxic background, you need to know that you have a lot of things to unlearn, so that even moving forward, you can be a better person. But I've had experiences with some of my friends who their parents have just been outright, there's that one, there's a parent creating an environment that is not healthy by the things they do. And there's also a parent just being intentionally mean to their child, whether a small child or a grown up child. And this one I've experienced mostly with people that are adults. You're an adult and maybe you're still living with your parents, you don't have a job and things like that. And you find a parent is just outright mean. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that has been something that has been very worrying for me, because I've experienced it with a couple of people.
Oh, I mean, that situation right now. But it's not, how do I put this? It's not from, I'm trying not to be biased.
But no, it's okay. You can share. It's your story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But basically, I have a very narcissistic dad. So, the pressure is coming from a father who's been absent in my life, emotionally, mentally, but very abusive. Does it make sense? Like, you're absent, but your heart is very present. So that pressure of you need to look for a job, you need to go to call your auntie, tell your auntie you're done with school. But in my head, I don't even know if I want to be employed this year. Like I'm kind of trying to figure out, okay, what do you do after university? Everyone is in the job market. The question is, do I really want to be in the job market? So it's coming from him, but not from the person who's been present in my life. That's my mom. She's just like, okay, what do you want to do? I don't know. Fine. You get, like, the pressure is not coming from her. And I feel for me, she's the most important voice in my life. So I'm just like, I fucking don't care about you.
Has it been like this since you were a child? You had one supportive parent and then the other one who caused harm?
Yes. I don't want to say supportive, because how my sibling and I have grown up is very different. I'm very vocal. So if I saw something and I didn't like it, I didn't keep quiet. I just said it. Or if I didn't say it, I would just work against it and become the rebellious, the black child. I've been suspended 3 times, bruv. So that in itself in our home was an issue. But how it was taken care of and how it had been taken care of if it were my sister was different. Because they knew if I made a decision, I have made a decision. And I wasn't very easily swayed. You get, like, I don't stick into confined spaces. So my dad had to learn, you will not suppress this woman. And my mom as well also had to learn, you will not keep her quiet. Because now she's the don't confront, let's have peace type of person. Me, I'm like, this is not going right, let's be chaotic. I don't fear confrontation.
When you were kuandamana.
To andamane. Let's deal with this issue right here, right now. But so halfway it's like, you don't have to. So she had to understand or come to a place of, baby, that's your personality and there's nothing I can do about it now. Now, my dad is still fighting, but hana choice either way. So I don't think it's support. It's just got to a point where it's a losing battle. It's my personality. No one can change it. I'm not saying that I'm rude. It's just that I'm very adamant. So if I decide on something, it's a decision I've made and I'm going forward with it. With or without your support, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is, yeah. They had to bend.
They had to bend.
They had to bend. It wasn't like that from the beginning.
I think, Vicky, umetupeleka mbio sana. You have mentioned something to do with your dad being narcissistic. Maybe you can take us slowly through this process. What aspects?
How did you come to that conclusion?
There's a lot of generational trauma from his side of the family. That's why, as Derek's, I don't know if it's, I think it's you who's mentioned, some things are very generational. So he saw his dad do because his father saw his father do. And then you get my point. And then coming from, he was born post-colonial era. It's that kind of 1963 period. So your grandfather was fighting in the Mau Mau War, so he was an absent dad as well. So your dad grew up without a father, grew up with the mom only. And then now when he married, he cheated, you get my point? Like, nothing was ever confronted to be able to deal with the absenteeism of that one person and how it has affected his generation. So for my dad, my late, because he died, my late grandfather and my late grandmother as well, they separated. So that period, like, they've been separated till their death, basically, because it was toxic. So the mom left, the dad left without the children, the mom left without the children. So my dad also had to now become the caregiver of his siblings. You get my point? So there's unsaid trauma, and now what he learned and what he got from there, he has it. It's kind of PTSD, but then his personality does not help. Like, he doesn't want to be corrected. First of all, he will gaslight you. He will make you feel like you're the one who's done wrong. Na clearly tu unakumbuka tu siku saa 6 mchana blah 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 1 2 3 happened, and sir, it was you. But it's like, no, it wasn't me. You did. You get my point. Like, he'll try to find a way to make
not to take responsibility.
Yes, like he doesn't take responsibility, and it was very evident ever since I was conscious. Like, in my formative years, you see that period of 5 to 7, it's very crucial for a child. But now when you start seeing some things are not done by your dad but are being done by other dads, you're just like, na mbona dadi akujangi na mkate home? And then your neighbor utanabaka kitana mkate. It was in the minute, and then he forgot about house responsibilities, and then it became even also the emotional responsibilities, because now it would be like, oh, you need to pass your exams. If you fail, you're beaten, and then when you're beaten, you're hurt. You get my point? And then he will come and abuse you. He's very verbal. He's verbally abusive. Come and abuse you. And if it's not, it's your mom. Like kulikuwa tu na hiyo kitu fulani. Like he doesn't want to take sole responsibility. And when he started confronting him, he'd be like, no, but I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, miss sikufanya, sikusema hivyo. And I'm like, am I stupid? So it had to get to a point where you become very self-aware of, you're not gonna manipulate me to bend to what you think what you think was the nature of events. And how can 3 people be against you? Like, doesn't make sense. Your whole family cannot be against you, and they feel, oh, I'm done, because that's what he feels like. Hey, everyone is against me, watoto wangu nini. But bro, no, akili yako ndio inakudanganya. How you interpreted or what you think you saw isn't exactly what happened. This is what happened. Your children can't be lying to you. We saw it, it was there, we have trauma because of it. How now do you come and change the narrative from A to B? Like, it's those things. It's in the minute, but also again, he's also very, I'm just saying this with utmost love and again resentment. I wouldn't say that I don't resent him. I'll be lying. I'm so mad at him. I wish he would want to do better, because you can never understand a narcissistic person. The moment you do, you lose your mind. So I don't want to understand where he's coming from. All these are excuses of, if he knew that this is something that he doesn't want to bring to his children, he'd be okay to seek help. But now when we get to a point where we are like, okay, as a family, we need to go for counseling or therapy, he's like, no. Why would I go tell someone who doesn't know me about my problems? You get my point? Like, he does not, and he runs away from accountability. So with all these things, this person does not want to be helped. And there's nothing we can do about it.
Let me ask.
We deal with it.
At what age did you realize, I know you mentioned 5 to 7, but at what point did you realize that your dad wasn't a kawaida dad, quote unquote?
7. My first not memory of him. Like, he was, before 7, I think in their marriage they tried to hide a lot of things. You see how parents like, oh, msiagi mbele ya watoto, which you shouldn't though. Like, conflict is important and necessary actually, but the absence of war does not mean peace. I think that's something. So there's a lot of things we didn't know. My sister and I. So at age 7, my mom just went to Kitui for something about church. And then I'm with my dad in the living room. Then I just go see him take a walking stick that's a sword inside. Had it in the corner of the sitting room. And he just did some shady preparations. And I'm just like, huh? And then when my mom was dropped by the car, I remember came to Lali. And I'm just like, okay. So I don't know what happened between. So in the morning, my sister wakes me up and says, Park, we are leaving. At age 7. And then I go outside and meet my mom seated, kwa gunia nje. And then my dad seated at the stool. Then my sister tells me, ata mama kuingia home jana alilala kwa bafu ya nje. And I was just like, that's not normal. And before my mom got home that night, me personally, I was expectant of her. It's like, oh, she'll bring me biscuits, But remember, endo ulale. And then it wasn't endo ulale. Endo ulale. It was endo ulale. It was an
order
command.
From above.
It was a command. So from age 7, that girl is still struggling. Because I didn't understand it then, but I just knew. I know. So when I got to like class 7, 8, that's when I knew now this one apana. Because now I remember I was so depressed, and there were photos I had where I would write, I really miss my dad. And he's at home. But the thing is, like, you're not the man I knew. You're not the man I knew, and you're not making effort to become any better, basically. So yeah.
Before we come back to Vicky, I have so many things to ask her. Derek.
Yeah.
Vicky's experience is in a what's the word? It brings so many aspects of toxicity together. But I just want our audience also to be aware, like, of the various types of toxic caregivers.
Yeah.
So that they can be able to identify and place a name to whatever it is they went through, or maybe they are practicing it right now. They're the toxic one. So would you tell us something about that?
Yeah, I will highlight a few. I'll say my research or my understanding has been inspired by, there's a woman called Susan Ford. There's a very beautiful book called Toxic Parenting by Susan Ford. So basically there are like 5 types of toxic caregivers. They are the controllers. The controllers will use manipulation to guilt trip you, they can even overhelp you so that they can take control of you.
So is it like a love bombing situation?
Yes, it's actually a love bombing situation. Every decision you make in life, it has to be approved by them. The kids who grow up even to the adulthood, they want to go out partying, they want to go out with their spouses, but their parents will start guilt-tripping them like, you don't care about us, we have an important event in the family, and you need to show up. They completely want you to be present for their things, and
it's totally selfish.
It is totally selfish, They control you. Like every place you go, they control you. Naturally, a kid at certain points needs to be allowed to explore, to make mistakes, to be corrected, and to be directed. But a toxic caregiver will control you. Every decision you make, they have to be part of it. So that is one. There's another one, the alcoholics. Those who, when somebody is an alcoholic, they don't emotionally become present to their children. They can do other stuff which are toxic. They can be verbally abusive, and all other stuff. So an alcoholic is a toxic parent completely because they don't take responsibility for their action. Anytime we are on drugs or such, we lose our focus and our duties as parents. They are the verbally abusers Vicky has talked about. Some will do it sarcastically, some will do it subtly, but they are verbally abusive. They're projecting their own fears onto you. Yes. You are stupid, but these are things that was implanted in them as they were growing up. So, all this kind of stuff. And the trouble with the abusers, and sometimes the verbally abusers leave big scars in us than the physically abusers. Those who are physically abusers, because they leave you with a lot of doubt. You grow up and then you fear, you doubt yourself, you'll never even try to, new things. Sometimes there are people who can't even apply for jobs because they believe they're not adequate enough, because their parents told them you can never do anything good. And the verbally abusers we can also have within them those who are perfectionists. You can have, being a perfectionist sometimes it's also a form of toxic nature as a parent. You are setting a very high standard for your child or people around you that sometimes it's beyond the usual for them to reach, So that is, it can come in that form. Then we have the physically abusers, those who strike you, they do anything, they leave you scars on your face or any other place in your body. And then, of course, we have the least one is the sexual abusers, those, who deprive you of your innocence. They caress you. You should not, there are things you don't do to your child and such, So I'd basically term those 5 as the major types of abusers. Though the list
is endless.
The list is endless.
Yeah, and listening to you, the one me I'm thinking about is like the parents who emotionally, when somebody abuses you, all these ones have an aspect of emotional abuse, but there are those parents who, when a child does something wrong, they punish them by being passive aggressive. They don't talk to them. They neglect them.
Yeah.
That is also a very serious abuser.
Yeah.
And a parent should not be doing that. They should be like clear systems of how you discipline a child.
Yeah.
Not by neglecting them and being passive aggressive to them.
Yeah. So but maybe back to Vicky. She has highlighted from the time she knew the dad was quote unquote toxic, or should I not use the word quote unquote? At what point then did you start to feel the implications of his toxic nature?
It has always been present, even to think of it. I have an older sister, so you're having this conversation in the morning, and she's just like how she lived even as an older sibling is very different from how I lived. Because the moment I came into the picture, she was neglected as a child. Because by the time I was being born, she was 5 years old. She's still a child. So she stopped being a priority. And the thing with having to juggle all this is there has to be a balance in parenting. Who takes care of who at what time? Is the mother taking care of the first child today? Is the father taking care? So with that, even me being in the picture, he just has not... He's just been like that actually. Because it's either he's not present physically because of work, which is understandable. You need to look for money. And then when he comes, the mood of the house all of a sudden changes. So all of a sudden we were just cozy and free and doing whatever shit we wanted. Then all of a sudden it's like, babenyu amekuja fungeni leso msivai dresses. You get my point? So my G has always
always done his thing.
Yeah, he's just like vibes and inshallah.
What has been the impact with your relationship with other people now outside your home?
Whoa. I didn't trust, and I still don't trust religious men to date. Religion in terms of you're so into a particular set of beliefs that you refuse to see the reality of life. Does that make sense?
It does.
Because coming from a Christian home, what the Bible says and what you're seeing has a match. And then you're constantly being punished using the word of God. It's like, a child should honor the father and mother. This is the one commandment, blah, blah, blah.
So it's used as manipulation.
It is, and it has always been used as manipulation. So when you start reading the Bible for yourself, it's just like, but see, even parents should, they also have roles and responsibilities. The implication, that is the first implication. Like, I don't. If many can too churchy, my friend, red flag, big one. But for some time, it wasn't because I was so familiar with it. But now, since I'm now going back to my inner child and my younger child and looking at things just like, I don't want to go to that direction. Secondly, I don't easily trust. I will not trust you because the first person who broke my heart was my own father. How do you expect me to trust you? I don't know you. I don't easily trust. I don't give my trust. I will laugh with you, my friend, but in a shapo. Me and you, done. Like, no communication further. We meet physically, we are done. And I don't like people also knowing too much of my business at the same time. Because it has not been encouraged for me to speak out. I had to fight to speak out. So even coming and telling Lillian, baby, no, unajua, niko na mashida 1, 2, 3. That tells me, tell you, I have thought about it for 3 months. So even by the time I'm coming to you and telling you, maybe I'm going through 1, 2, 3, it happened 3 months ago, or even a year ago, and that's when I'm like, oh yeah, but then unajua hata kitambo, and I laugh about it, but during that moment when it was happening, it wasn't laughable. And lastly, this is what my mom the narrative my mom pushed, is suppressing emotions. Like, I can be mad at you for 558 days and you will never know. And that's bad. Allowing yourself to feel, I think, is a very big part of healing. So when you're denied that growing up, it's like, because despite all this, because he was, first of all, he's physically abusive. He's not doing it right now, but it's still there. He's throwing plates, he's throwing glasses, he's breaking things or trying to break things. It's still happening. At that time, he was beating my mom up. We saw it. He was beating my sister up, like, seriously, kumchapa. We saw it. Mimi amenivunja mkono. Like, I was there. So at that moment, you're told, but you can't be mad at your dad. You're being disciplined. Just like, kwani mtu akidiscipline anavunjwa mkono? Like, explain to me. And him just being that aggressive and violent and whatever, you're told, just contain your emotions, don't blow up, take it as it is, and step. I was like, it can't work like that.
It can't be me.
It cannot. But at that moment, unalipiwa school fees. Those years analipa, but school fees, you're still under his rule, basically. What can you do? So that thing of suppressing emotion, I still do have it. So by the time even I'm coming out and saying, hey baby, 1, 2, 3 things, or even showing my emotions, it takes time. I'll just go silent. It's just like, no one will even listen to me when I say I'm mad. Because I don't expect anyone to. But with time, I just allowed. I think the first time I allowed myself to be mad at him was 2020.
Wow, just the other day. But you've just paused there. You've talked about suppressing emotions. I feel like we need to talk about that because I feel like that is the story of our lives as Africans.
Yes.
Ukilia unaambia unalia nini? Na kuchapa ndio upate sababu ya kulia. Like, there's always that aspect of you're not allowed to feel and you're not allowed to express your emotions.
Yes.
And we've grown up with it till now. Hata ukiona mtu akilia and they're going through something, you're like, wacha kulia.
Like you know how to
and in your head you're comforting them. In your head you're being of help by telling them wacha kulia, utakuwa sawa. Instead of just letting somebody express just the way ujaiambia mtu ache kucheka. So let them, just let them cry. But it's and we are here, me and you, we're women. We're talking about suppressing. I don't know what Derek has to say about the other gender in terms of emotions and suppression.
I don't know if I have comment for that. Well, we all
Is
must.
suppression a big deal for you? Do you guys? I know you do, but as Derek, where are you at with your emotions? Is suppression something you still practice? Do you feel obligated to suppress? Because you see, for women, you can cry, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yes, even though we are taught to suppress, but you can cry, it's okay.
Society will be fine with you crying. Basically.
Yeah, so you as Derek, what is the situation?
One thing I know is, maybe I know for myself, is being masculine, emotional, naturally, it doesn't come out automatically to be most of the time emotional, like to be affected by every other aspect of things happening around you and triggering you, it's slightly a bit different. But when we talk about suppressing what you feel, it is not right to suppress what you feel. But sometimes so many kids, boys, girls, they are forced to suppress. As a man or as a boy, it is important also to have time with your parents, either your mom or your dad, especially your dad, to talk manly, the things you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to react to emotions, how you're supposed to express your emotions, and address issues. So I wouldn't say it is tied only to emotions, but also tied to how we address personal issues. It can go beyond emotions. Yeah, because sometimes they say men look at things from a logical point of view most of the time than from an emotional aspect. Or I might not easily be triggered by emotional aspect, but other things, and I need to express it, I need to talk about it. So suppressing is purely toxic and harmful to oneself.
And I've heard you say men look at things from a logical point of view as opposed to emotional, and most of the times this has translated to the emotions being invalid. So is it because they believe the emotions are not valid, like they don't need to bring that aspect out? Because for me, I come from a school of thought where I believe you can have both. You can allow yourself to feel and still be logical.
Yeah, you can. What I said is, most of the time, we view things logically compared to if it can be 60-40%. It doesn't rule out the fact that we don't have emotions. All human beings have emotions.
Yes, and
you must have emotions to be a human.
My question was, yes, you have emotions.
Yeah.
My question was whether these emotions are validated. That was my question.
Oh.
Yeah.
Most of the time they're not validated. Because there's a thin line between expressing emotion and suppressing emotion. Sometimes men are told to suppress, not really
be a man.
Yeah, be a man. There's that term, be a man. But be a man doesn't mean you don't express emotion. Be a man is how you express emotion. I'd probably put it that way. Yeah.
What do you mean how? Emotions are not at a structured. They're not at a. Some things you don't plan for. Expressing emotions can be chaotic and messy.
Yeah.
Like Will Smith.
Yeah, his reaction towards the joke.
Of course, I wouldn't use Will Smith for my explanation for many other reasons. But for a man, you can express emotion, and I've said how you express it, how it can it can be in form of where you're expressing it, to who you're expressing it. Yeah, those are kind of conversations, but this is not a conversation about men and how
I have a last
express.
question. I have a last question in regards to that topic. You see, we're usually told women are the emotional ones, right?
Yeah,
Women are more emotional
than men. Yeah,
But I tend to feel like this is very selective because we see a lot of anger from men, but we never term them as emotional.
Facts.
I will agree.
Even our leaders, but
Yeah,
we never
yeah.
see that as emotional.
You know, I
We
will
only
agree.
see crying.
I will agree, and there's a conversation I've been having with so many other people. You know, being a man is not simply about how, like, you have. How do I put it? Being a man is not for the fact that you are a man. You were born a boy. It's beyond that. That traits that you adapt, you're trained with the environment you are in. That you adopt many masculine traits as opposed to feminine traits. You can be a woman, but you have more masculine traits than feminine because of the environment you grew up in. You are forced to, raise kids. You are forced, when there was no husband or there was no father, you're forced to stand up for the family. And some of the roles you have to take, provision, which most of the time the lead person should be the man, for example. As a woman at that point, you are forced to suppress your emotion because your kids, if they see you cry, they're not seeing you as a woman, they're seeing you as the leader of that family. So because you want to make sure your kids sees a leader, they see everything is okay, that doesn't happen in the family. So in the long run, you are more masculine than feminine. So I wouldn't term being feminine or masculine to be man, woman. It's more of how you're prepared.
Okay, we'll continue this conversation another day because we have digressed. And dear viewer, we were talking about toxic caregivers, and we have Vicky here who has been sharing her experience with us, and she said a lot of things. But I want to know, like, how, because of your experience, and I know you've partly answered this in your when you previously talked. How has life been for you because of that experience?
Actually, it's not that bad. I just come from a dysfunctional home. That's basically how I see it. And I know it's I don't want to, not everything has been bad, honestly. Despite the dysfunctionality within my parents, my mom was the most functional woman I've seen. But now, as Derek is saying, now she had to forgo things, like to feel. I don't have the right to feel things. Like, she doesn't cry in front of us. You just hear her voice and like, hey, why are you crying? Or even when she's in pain, she won't tell you she's in pain until now it's get to a point where she can't do anything because she's in pain. You get my point? Like, she had to take the role of, I am both mother and father in this house. And other than that, when you're raising girls, I also need to be their friend. So what's the balance between dad, mom, and friend? So it hasn't been healthy, for sure. It is not even healthy at all till now. But just that bit of one person chose not to be the same, because she had the choice of being as bad as my dad, like baba yenyu amenichapa, their parents are like that. My partner has done this to me, so I'll do the same thing to my children just to show how mad I am. She didn't do that. She just was very diplomatic about it, which is not all that good and nice as well. But it has helped us to understand, by the way, you don't have to reciprocate the energy you're giving. Because as much as she's gone through so much turmoil, she still has the biggest heart till now. She's still giving the same man so many chances, which I don't understand if you ask me. Like, she's still just a light in this darkness. So my life has not been all that bad. I've schooled, I ate, I went to uni, I have good friends. when you come from a dysfunctional home, it doesn't mean your life becomes dysfunctional as well. It's how you choose.
You have brought an interesting thing that your life has been well, schooling and everything. I don't think, or rather you will help me understand that maybe I heard you say that something to do with therapy and all that. Probably you came later on to discover that it is important for you and your entire family to go for therapy.
Yeah.
But help us understand, what was your relationship, or what has been your relationship before you even thought about therapy, being with men, especially even when it comes to settling with men? Have you settling with the right men? Have these men been men who are similar, have some similar character traits to your dad?
Let me tell you, Minor, it's been the fucking pits. It's been the pits because of where I came from. I had self-esteem issues. Remember that. I said this in like the previous 2 episodes. I had self-esteem issues. So you're coming from a place where you're never affirmed that, you know, you're coming and told, oh, you're beautiful, oh, you can do this, you can do that. You're coming from a place where, hey, baby, hapa ni kusurvive, my friend. Wenda usome, kama unaka vizuri, moka vizuri, isn't my fucking business, bro. So with that and that, even disappointment, even of a father, you get that even to show you the direction of, with the end of bare minimum, it wasn't there. So darlings, for a while,
It's been,
hey, you're just like, and then you don't realize it until you're in it. And I think that was very similar to my mom. She didn't know that much until she got into the marriage, and she was like, eh, dokunaendanga. So I've also been the same. And then we were so, as in we were trained to see potential. It's like, baby mwanaume anaweza badilika. Because of my effect in his life, he will start thinking of other ways. They don't change. As in their characteristics about a human
So
being.
you say you've been
never
picking men with characters almost close to you?
Yes. And it's not, okay, not like physical abuse, because that one now I was very aware. But now it is the emotional abuse and also the provision part. Because also now, because of him not providing, my mom has been providing. So I don't see an issue of me providing. Because for me, it's like, oh, I'm being independent. But
you don't see an issue with paying
yes.
rent for a man.
Is it in our previous episode you said you were paying rent for...
Yes, she did pay rent.
And you are very much okay?
I was, because now she has paid all the bills. So what's the problem with me paying all the bills? And then I came to realize, hey, why am I paying your bills and we don't even live together? Even if we were. Child rent miyako. As in, it was those things. But luckily, I feel like as much as the sexual abuse is not something that no one should ever experience and whatever. Like for me now, it was like, hey, wait, amka. Wake up. You're expecting barrel minimum. Below the barrel. Not a wine cell, as in uko tu chini. As in you're just dating people and you're like, why am I constantly asking you to show me love? Why am I fighting for affection, or why am I fighting to be assured? That's what I'm doing with my father. Mbona ninafanya hizi battles na wewe? Like that is what I was speaking. But no, not anymore.
Not anymore.
I'm
I'm happy that we are having the not anymore conversation. But I know you've mentioned, for you to get to a point of not anymore, there's been things you've had to unlearn, and I know it's a lot. I just want you to share with the audience like a few things that you would want to share that you have clearly had to unlearn in the road to becoming a better, like the best version of yourself.
First thing I've learned, anything that looks, I don't say red flag because people say, oh, they look pink, but anything that does not look like green in a relationship, and not, even can be light green, because even plants start in a certain
Which shade of green are we looking for? Are we looking for jungle green? Which green? Tell us.
Something that looks healthy. I think I have
vegetable green.
Yes, vegetable green is fine. I have had to unlearn looking for potential. I see you as you are.
Wow.
I see you as you are. You're lazy today, you'll be lazy tomorrow, and you'll be lazy the other day. That's how I go. Unfortunately, it's not the for some people, it's not the right mindset. But now where I'm at is just like, especially in romantic relationships, if I see uko hivi leo, I don't expect anything from you. You came to me this way, that's how I'm taking you. This thing of, oh, I see potential, oh, you'll have gotten there in the next 4 years, 5 years, bruv. I have never even been there for the men who I saw potential for. It's other women reaping the benefits. Other women being taken for dates in particular places because I complained I was never taken for dates. You get my point? Like, I saw it, but I've never been there to reap the benefits of it. So, unlearning potential. Secondly, unlearning religion. Especially poor Christians. Hey. If you go to in a certain sector of belief, a person's characteristics are never changed by the Lord unless they want to. Period. Salvation does not change a person's characteristics unless they want to change. Change only comes from within. And if there's no effort, there's no interest in doing better, there will never be growth. So another thing has been also being very self-aware of where I am toxic or what my flaws are, and not being comfortable in sitting at times like, oh baby, I'm just too loud, I cannot now talk to you in a slow voice. Okay, like I have a harsh tone. Now accept me as I am. That thing of, oh, this is my personality, that's cheating. If the person you're with, or even you, especially for my sister or my mom, we don't shout at each other, because now shouting for us it's PTSD. You just shout for someone when they're cochini. That's the most you do. When you're having a conversation, you sit, you listen, you don't interrupt. When that person finishes, you interject now. Unless it's very Adam, or you're adding a point to. So even having to know when to use a particular tone of voice, when to listen, when to understand, and when to hear, and what to sieve as well. Because being in that environment, when you hear a lot of verbal abuse, it gets to a point your mind is like, okay, I'm blocking this now. Well, yeah. Okay, Maliza, I'll step. You teach your mind some things. So, and learning how to communicate. So you have to learn how to communicate effectively and efficiently. You have unlearning potential, unlearning even Christianity in itself. Because how, for me, Christianity was brought with patriarchy. And it's not all rosy. I am not against the Lord Jesus Christ. I still am Christian. But there are things within the group, I don't want to say the faith, because faith is personal, within the group that are just not right even for society. So all this has been, among many others, those are my 4 keys. And it's always a process. It's always a process, because the moment you get with someone and una realize hata bidhi sijamalizana na kitu ya 2015. You get my point? Because relationships trigger you and they challenge you a lot. So you're having to put into practice what you think you've already acquired, and applying it as a skill and as a way of living is now what I am doing. So yeah, it's that among many others. And it's okay to, by the way, the other thing I've unlearned is women have to suffer. Me personally, I have
African women and suffering.
Child, mimi ni baby girl. I am not here to suffer, and I will not suffer. I have chosen battles. Kama ni kazi yake tutangangana tu. Even toxic work environment, we are not even for them anymore. But this thing that you have to suffer in marriage, ativumilia tu mwanamke ni kuvumilia tu, kuvumilia ni
You've refused.
No. Well, people divorce when they die. Anyway,
So your message is choose your mental health
over everything.
Over everything else.
Over everything and anything.
Which is true. Vicky reminds me of something. Most of the time when there are conflicts in marriages, we think those who are affected the most are the couples. We always avoid to have a conversation with the children. Mm-hmm. And children are the ones who suffer most when, the husband is beating the wife, the wife is being abusive to the husband. We always know that those who have been affected is the wife and the husband. We don't, most of the time, have a chat with these kids, and they're the ones who suffer the most. Yeah. So we need to be careful. There's another type of, I think, I forgot to mention, I feel it's important. Toxicity in parenting is parents who confine their emotions to their children. The parents who reduce their children to be something we call miniature adults. You find that a parent, whether it's a father or the mother, everything they're going through in life, they confine it to their children. So their children are their supporting system. And they always, this kid doesn't grow to be a child. These kids grow to be adults. Like they see things as adults. And you don't even know you are depriving a very beautiful girl or boy the opportunity to just grow, to explore, and to learn things. They start viewing things as
a dad.
As a dad.
But I want to be a devil's advocate in that.
Please do.
You see, by the time this apparent confining in a child or whatever, I don't say it's a good thing, but I'm just saying, I don't know, I think I'm coming from a point of understanding the parent. By the time anafika hapo, probably this kid has already seen, has already like felt the vibe that the home is not okay. And you will see mommy shed a tear here, there, and you'll even ask her, hey, mommy, are you okay? Mommy, kwani unalia? And things like that. And sometimes this child is the only person the parent has. You understand?
Yeah, I get you.
This child is the only parent, and them being a human being, I find that it's a bit of a higher, I understand it's toxic, but I find it a bit of a higher standard to expect them to be sober. And even though you won't say anything to the child will know mom is not okay, and they will pick it up. They will start to act like they need to take care of mom. It can be something as simple as them fixing something for mommy, fixing tea for mommy or daddy, because they can see they're not okay. So I don't know what I'm saying, but
you are on the right track. I know.
Yeah.
In the long run, it will work for the parent.
But what of the child?
It doesn't work for either.
It will for some aspect.
Because I'm sure they even feel guilty.
Naturally, the moment you express your emotions to any other person, there is that baggage release. You might not really solve the issue. Sometimes it's not even about solving the issue, it's about letting it out.
But you'll feel guilty after it, so...
No, there are people who don't feel guilty.
Really?
So, this kid doesn't grow to be a kid. Let me tell you, it is...
That one I agree
important,
with you.
Yeah, it is important for our parents to have a support system. What we're trying to also preach is, let parents have a support system. Let us not say, have friends.
Baby, have friends.
Those times when we could hear our mom say, I'm going to your auntie's place.
Yeah, let me ask you, Vicky. I know it's easy for us to sit here and say have friends, but I'm trying to think. You see, for me, let me give you an example of myself. If I am going through something, I'm not reaching out to you and telling you, ati blah 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 is happening. I will talk to whoever is available. You understand?
Yeah.
See, ati now I'm calling person XYZ to tell them this is happening. If we are talking in that moment, if I'm with you in that moment, then I tell you. But I won't. It's hardly for me to reach out to someone and tell them this is what is happening. So for me, I'm thinking about the situation and I'm like, how realistic?
I get where you're coming from, because that's now my mom. My mom is very private. So since we are the ones in that home with her, now she'll come and tell us, hey, baby, me don't feel 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But, it also had to get to a point, even for us, because what she's telling us and what you're seeing, anakuwa relieved. What do I do?
But what? Yeah, I agree with you guys.
The worry to
now, I agree with you guys.
My sister and I now carry her burden, carry our emotions. And then my sister will come now and tell me her stuff.
Yeah.
Then I'll go tell my sister my stuff. You get my point? Because now our siblings...
These people are working with the big lords.
Exactly.
I understand. I think my point is...
exchange.
I get what you... Yeah, my point is, of course, the child has to be protected at all costs.
At all costs.
But I also don't think there's so many options.
Yes, but you cannot fully, though. You cannot, because you would catch on something and then...
You will catch it.
For us,
you will just catch it.
Let me tell you, it's not sometimes it's good to know something is happening without necessarily having to carry the entire baggage.
No. I'm an overthinker. I think afadhali nijue this is what is going
Being
down.
an overthinker, again, it's another issue. That's another whole issue.
To be speculating and think, no, I'd rather know the house is burning.
That's what I'm saying. One, the parent telling you is toxic. Two, you being an overthinker is toxic too. So there are two conflicts here. Because again in life, I cannot...
So Derek, you'd rather know there's something wrong but don't know what it is.
What I'm trying to say is we must do everything possible to protect a child. But a child should not be allowed to move around with so much baggage.
If an environment is unhealthy, it is unhealthy.
have
you can't
something to
protect
add.
you can't protect a child from
You
another.
cannot protect a child.
With
One of
that,
the
just
things-
because you're not telling them.
One of the things which I want to pose to Vicky is most of our parents today, they avoid divorce.
Yes.
Which I want to ask Vicky, if the toxic nature has become too loud, would you have suggested to your parents to divorce? Do you think things will be better for you as a kid, or things will be worse for you?
It wasn't even a suggestion. It was to happen. We were, my mom summoned the both of us, like, okay, now I want to divorce your dad. At that, I was 13 or 12. Personally, in Kwamto, I was like, tunangoja. You get my point. Personally, I was ready. And I feel had she walked out then, our life would have panned out differently. Probably would have had other sorts of traumas, but it wouldn't have been inflicted by this particular man to that extent. You get my point? But now as she saw it, divorce or separation is a curse, a generational curse. Oh, you see, I am avoiding it. Oh, it's ending with me. I'm like, hey man, you don't have to be responsible for breaking all the cycles. The breaking cycles has to be fought two ways. Like, the both of you have to be intentional about keeping this healthy. So had it happened, the trauma would have been, I don't think like that probably would have had very different lives. We would have been freer women. Honestly, we have done what we wanted to do with life, first of all, but we would have just been freer. So I get where Derek is coming from, and I get where you're coming from, but what I would advocate a parent in that situation, just inform the kids in a place where it's now a security risk, where you're being threatened with your lives, like, I'ma kill y'all, takuja niwachape nyote. Like, when those words are mentioned by whoever it is, tell them, now you have to be careful, don't lock the doors or lock the doors, just to make them aware every day, 1, 2, 3 things is happening. But not as you could just umwagie baggage yako.
That's true.
That's call wa mama wako wa chama and then
I'm not saying it's right, Vicky. You guys are not getting
I know what
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just asking,
we should give
is
them
there
grace.
Options? Like, we need to create more options.
Yeah.
And because you say you call your friends, but they're the same friends who laugh at you because your marriage is not working.
No, that's the
so thing. It's I'm coming from a point of, it's easier for us to sit here and say, go to the church, go to the friends, go to the family. But
I agree with you.
But there are not so many working options. The issue, I agree with you guys. The kids should not be a dump site for anyone's baggage. That one I agree. Yeah.
Our idea is becoming more difficult for the fact that in this generation we are killing friendships. Like, I have to see monetary value in our friendship with Vicky. In order for us to be friends. If there's nothing I'm gaining, we cannot be friends. Like, I cannot just be friends with Vicky for the fact that she's genuine, she's open, she's willing to spark conversations, she's willing to share my thoughts, my experiences. We're not building from that aspect. So, for the fact that we are killing, for the fact that capitalism is making us to be lesser interested with other factors and other people, it becomes limiting for us to even have friends we call genuine friends. So, because we have killed the entire society, the only person we have in our life is our children, because even our spouses have failed us. So for that fact, we end up speaking to these kids who become miniature adults. They start to see things that adults, they cannot, as in, they just become a whole, something that is not even a kiddish. Even their dreams in life, they start to rethink, because mom told me this, and she had to quit her dream at the age of 18 because that blah blah. So they start to rethink, the only thing I can do is 1, 2, 3, And even those who make their kids to be part of those who are breadwinners, when they're still young, it's completely wrong.
It's wrong,
and we should always try to avoid such kind of stuff.
Yes, don't make it look like I advocate for it.
You're not advocating for it. I'm trying to highlight where this aspect of us having a limited space to talk about has come from.
But it's also just not capitalism. It's a lot of things. It's cultures, it's religion, it's what is expected of us from so many angles that make you almost feel like you are a failure if your marriage is not working. So you can't even come and say, Manze, me and this man, things are not happening as they should, that we're not in a good place. Like, for me, I'm saying there are not so many spaces that somebody can do that from. Like, even leave the friends alone, even the church, even
Especially.
Yeah, there's not so many places you can be vulnerable about some issues
Choose.
like that. So we need to even
Spaces.
in our advocacy, we need to create a space where people know it's okay for a relationship to be on the rocks. You
Yes.
can talk about it. Yeah.
And also, when you said the church, I can only speak from a Christian point of view.
Yeah.
This thing of telling married couples divorce is not allowed in the Bible, marriages should reflect the marriage between Jesus and the church. Now, aren't you putting people in already compromising situations into even more compromising situations? As I think as of now, the narrative of till death do us part does not work. It's the moment you see, because how many women are dying because of, I don't even partners. Partners are killing each other
Yeah,
more.
those stories have become
more
too
than
much.
more than even thieves are killing people they are robbing from. So this narrative of pushing, you can only do so much work within a marriage by yourself. Marriage is a partnership. So when one part of the partnership is not working, your business hakuna mahali inaenda. You can only hold on it for so long. So if you're in such a situation where it's verbally, it's physically toxic, it's emotionally draining, it's everything in between, you've been cheated on, there's all these things. Yes, you can forgive and forget, darling. But if you feel like, hey, baby, I'm calling it out, step. There's no shame to it. At this point, just normalize divorce and separation. You can separate for 2 years, you go for therapy, then you feel like when you're ready to get back together, we can do that.
Yeah,
What's
but
wrong with
acknowledge
that?
if things are not okay.
Yes, stop this narrative of, marriages are to last till death do us part, blah, blah, blah. Bruv, you don't know how the next 15 years look like. You don't know. Different things break different. So, but your narrative yachekwa pushed. Stop. It should just stop.
It should stop.
It really should stop.
I agree. I know we have really gone. We are doing the most, but I still have things to ask Vicky. I know there's probably somebody listening to you, and they've gone through a situation that has been very toxic with their caregivers. And what is it that you would tell them? What is the hope that they should hang on to? What should they do?
Wow. I don't have an answer for that because I also don't know what I'm doing. Because it's as much as it's what you grow up with, it's also unfamiliar territory. Like every day brings something new. You can wake up today and you're all laughing and you're all mellow and joyous. And then 30 minutes from now, the house is burning. I genuinely don't know, but don't lose your identity within that caregiver. The moment you do that, you give that person, and as I've said this a million times, you give that person so much power and control over your life that you either become that person or you cannot become your true self. Like for me, my biggest worry and concern is to be like my dad in my marriage or even to my children. So that means I'm already thinking that I might be like him. There's that fear of, I don't want my kids to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have to know what you want and what you don't want and work towards what you're achieving. So if you're trying to achieve a healthy space around yourself with healthy people, allow yourself to have accountability around you. Allow yourself to be scrutinized and criticized and be told and be called out. Because now that when you're not, there's no accountability, you're not being called out. So if I'm doing something that's BS, Derek has every right to come and tell me what you're doing, that's shitty. Stop. And also accept help.
Yeah, so
accept it.
So understand that you are coming from a point where you have to unlearn so many things.
Yes.
Agree to be self-aware and keep yourself accountable.
Yes. And surround yourself with healthy environments to show you the contrast between healthy and unhealthy. For me, that
where you are and where you need to go.
Yes, and that for me was very important even in my journey to even choose a better partner. Like I have boys. Like my boys, despite whatever flaws they hold, they are such a breath of difference. I don't know if that makes sense. Like you see how your dad treats your mom and then you see how this man treats you. And it's nothing romantic. It's just so platonic. It's like, okay, I care for you.
It's like the basic respect.
It's just basic respect. Okay, I'm gonna pick you up and drop you near home so that you get home safely. That has never happened with my father. You get my point. Like, you don't have to pay for the bills. I'll cater for it. And if we don't both have money, we don't have to do anything, or let's do 50-50, but it's communicated prior. Like, it's in those minute things. Just having platonic, healthy male relationships changed a whole spectrum of how I thought about men. There was just like, there's so much hope that I'll get someone who's better than my dad in many ways because I have surrounded myself with people who are better than him. So be very aware of your surroundings as well.
Okay. Do you want to be a parent?
Do I want to be a parent? Hey, where I stand right now, I don't want to be a parent now. I eventually want to be a parent, but just not now. Because I can't handle bringing a child with currently my emotional state. There's a lot I'm still processing. So I think even my catch is until I am like 5 years into therapy, like fully consistently, that's when I can start thinking about bringing a child into this world. So it's also something that
A work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
When that time comes, what would you like to do different?
Just be present. Not present in a hurtful way, but be present. Let my child be who they are, however it may look like. That has to be accepted. However it may look like, whatever decision they make is like, you're okay and you're allowed to make mistakes. And not putting so much pressure into education and, let's develop, your talents or rewards of, oh, I want to be proud of you. I'm proud of you regardless. You get my point? Like, I don't want to attach my pride of myself as a parent to a particular thing that you're good at. It's just like, you're just my child, and that is enough for me to be proud about. So, and kushusha to expectations. It's like, there's so much unrealistic shit out here. It's like, what do you want to do? I want to be a doctor. What if they don't want to be a doctor? If you want to be a violinist? So also having the resources to be able to equip them with everything else other than what I got, which was education. Yeah. So exposure, travel the world, see life from a different lens. Yes, and also cut them off from their grandfather. No offense to my dad.
I know we are about to end, but Vicky has been very valuable to this podcast, and I know those listening to her or this podcast have really benefited a lot from the past few episodes that you've been in. So I want you to just share like 2 things that you do to keep your mental health in check, so that maybe somebody can borrow from it, somebody who's struggling with their mental health.
Get people you can trust, and getting is not ati shikaderi kumchukue trustworthy. Build that relationship.
Yeah, take the time.
Take the time, be intentional about it. It will align. If people who want to be there for you will always be there for you. So do that. Build beautiful relationships with whoever is available to be your friend. Even if it's like that 43-year-old man who just wants or sees you as whoever they see you. Just build beautiful friendships. And secondly, allow yourself to feel and allow yourself to unlearn. That is the only way you can overcome, not necessarily overcome, or have coping mechanisms within those particular environments. So unlearn, relearn, and learn. Like those 3 elements. Like, and question. Better ask why. Always ask the question why. So why did you fight with my mom yesterday? Insist. Like, I want to really understand why you fought, not how you felt. Why did you fight? Like, I always question and learn, relearn, learn new things, and also surround yourself with very healthy people.
Derek,
I have something to add. If you want to listen to more of this, I can need to revive my podcast.
You need to tell them so that you can be kept accountable.
Anyways, there's I'm available. I don't know if I'm at Spotify, but I'm available on Spotify and Anchor. Just go search Tuange with Vicky. There, I did like 4 episodes of that situation. Now, when I was in the moment of now questioning, that was 2020. I think that's when I started my podcast. Yeah, just go understand the process so that you can be able to differentiate the growth from then to now, because there's a very big difference. Yeah,
you guys go check out Tuonge by Vicky on Spotify. She said Spotify, but you get the message. Derek, closing remarks.
Well, it has been heavy. I'm trying to take in what she was saying so that you can be a better parent in the near future with my yeah. So I think what she has reiterated in the end is the future is for those who want to learn and to relearn. So I hope for those who are parents or wish to be parents have learned a thing or two, that they should always be careful with how they are bringing up their children, and they should actually work on the issues of the past. So yeah, I hope somebody has learned a thing or two and they're willing to make things better for their kids, or they're willing to make things better for themselves as kids who have suffered from toxic environment. Try to heal. I always tell my friends and even those who have walked with this journey is if the environment is still difficult, try and get a different space where you can heal.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't heal from the same house where you have suffered.
Right. True.
So run away from your home if you can. Not literally running, but getting a different space. It can help you. Healing doesn't take a day or two. It is a process, as Vicky has said. Yeah.
Wow, do I need to say anything? I have learned so much from Vicky and from this episode, and I'm hoping that our audience have also just gotten a lot of gem from what Vicky has said, because I think this is learning for all of us, whether you want to be a parent or whether you are surrounded with kids. It could be your niece. You could be hurting that kid and you don't even know. So it's very important for us to, I think it's a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone for us to interrogate ourselves and see how we behave around kids and even around other people, because you can be toxic, quote unquote toxic, without knowing. And for most people, they don't know that whatever they're doing is harmful or unhealthy. So thank you very much, Vicky.
You're welcome.
And thank you for everyone that is listening to this podcast. If you've gotten this far away, yeah, thank you.
You've stayed.
You've stayed. You're loyal. Thank you very much, and we will see you. You will hear from us in the next one. Bye bye.